"You're not the supermodel I ordered," Roman Vale said. Claire Bennett should have laughed, handed him the lost memory card, and walked away. Instead, she noticed the two men waiting beside the elevator. The fake conversation, the eyes that never stopped tracking her reflection in the hotel glass. Some mistakes cost money, some cost trust. This one could cost her life. On a frozen Chicago night, an ordinary photographer stepped into the penthouse of a man the entire city feared. What she found inside was more than danger. It was betrayal, hidden evidence, and a powerful man fighting to escape the empire that made him. Stay until the end, because this story is about what happens when the wrong woman sees the truth everyone else was paid to hide. Like the video and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The wrong woman had walked into Roman Vale's penthouse, and now someone outside was trying to open the door. The electronic lock flashed green. The handle turned once slowly, as though whoever stood in the hallway expected the door to surrender without resistance. The secondary bolt held. A narrow line of corridor light appeared along the frame. Roman raised his gun. Claire stood behind the marble divider, one hand pressed against the cold stone, the other wrapped around the strap of her camera. Her breathing sounded too loud in her own ears. Room service, a man called from outside. His voice was pleasant, trained, almost bored. Claire looked toward the untouched dining table. There were no plates, no empty glasses, no sign that Roman had ordered anything. Roman did not answer. The man outside waited. For several seconds, nothing moved. Then the handle returned to its original position. The line of light disappeared. Footsteps crossed the hallway, unhurried at first, then faster when the elevator chimed. Roman stayed where he was. His gun remained pointed at the door. Claire watched his face. There was no panic in it, no sudden anger, only concentration so complete that it made the room feel smaller. A vibration came from his wrist. Roman glanced at his watch. "Stay there." Claire almost laughed, though nothing about the moment was funny. "You have a gun," she whispered. "I was not planning to wander around." He looked at her once, then moved toward the private service entrance beside the kitchen. 3 knocks sounded from the other side, 2 close together, 1 after a pause. Roman opened the door. A broad-shouldered man in a dark overcoat entered first. 2 others followed. All 3 moved with the quiet precision of men who had been trained to take control of a room before speaking. The first man looked at Claire, then at the memory card on the table. "Floor is clear," he said. The man at the main door used a housekeeping card registered to Elena Marquez. She clocked out at 5:12. "Where is she?" Roman asked. "Home in Cicero. My people are confirming." "The 2 near the elevator. Gone before we reached the 31st floor. They used the west stairwell. Camera coverage cuts out between 29 and 30. Roman's jaw tightened. "Who disabled it? We are checking." Roman lowered his gun, but did not put it away. The security chief looked toward Claire again. "Who is she?" Claire answered before Roman could. "The woman who found the card everyone seems willing to break into a penthouse for." The man's expression remained unreadable. Roman slid the gun beneath his jacket. "Claire Bennett. She is not involved. Not involved people do not usually end up inside your suite with missing evidence." Claire folded her arms. "I am beginning to notice that." Roman's gaze sharpened. "Ethan." The single word carried enough warning to stop the conversation. The security chief gave a small nod. "Hotel security has been compromised. At least one person in operations altered the camera schedule. We also found a request in the system to open the private elevator for Savannah Chase at 8:15. Roman looked toward the folder on the desk. She never arrived. No, her driver was found in a parking structure near Wabash, unconscious but alive. Miss Chase was located in the back seat of a different vehicle 6 blocks away. Sedated. She is with a private physician now. Claire looked from Ethan to Roman. "The supermodel." Roman said nothing. The opening insult returned to her with a different weight. "You really were expecting one. My sister's company hired her for a campaign fitting." Claire glanced at the folder. "That seems almost disappointingly normal." "It was supposed to be." Ethan placed a tablet on the desk and opened a calendar record. The booking was added 3 weeks ago through Malcolm Reed's office. Miss Chase was given private elevator access and clearance to arrive without standard security screening. Roman's attention settled on the name. The room changed. Claire could not have explained how. No one stepped forward, no voice rose. Yet something in Roman became still in a way that made every other stillness look careless. Malcolm approved it personally, he asked. His assistant entered the request under his credentials. Where is Malcolm? Not answering. Roman looked toward the city beyond the windows. Snow had started to fall over Michigan Avenue, thin white lines cutting through the dark. Headlights moved far below, indifferent to the fact that a woman had been drugged, a memory card had been stolen, and armed men had waited beside an elevator for Claire to walk into their hands. Ethan touched the tablet again. There is more. The man outside your door did not come through the main hall. He used the service corridor. Someone let him onto the floor from inside. Roman turned back. Lock the building down. That will involve Chicago police, then involve the people who can be trusted. Ethan glanced at Claire. Roman understood the question. She stays with me. Claire's head came up. I do not remember agreeing to that. Roman looked at her. No one is asking you to agree to anything tonight. That sentence is not helping. Ethan almost smiled, then seemed to think better of it. Roman moved toward Claire and stopped several feet away. The distance felt deliberate. The men in the corridor have your face, he said. Someone searched the camera system after you left the lobby. If you return to your room alone, they will find you. Then I call the police. You can. The answer came too easily. Claire studied him. And you will have to explain why men connected to a private criminal investigation are searching for a memory card you found outside my suite. The hotel will deny any security failure. The card may contain evidence tied to companies under my name. By morning, every person involved will know where the evidence went and who carried it. You are saying the police cannot protect me. I'm saying some can. Some cannot. You do not know which ones will answer the call. Claire looked at Ethan. He did not contradict Roman. She hated the calm logic of it. She hated that fear was beginning to arrange itself into facts. Roman gestured toward the sitting area. Sit down. I would rather stand. Then stand. He did not insist again. That mattered more than she wanted it to. Ethan began assigning men to the elevator stairs lobby, loading dock and garage. He spoke quietly into an earpiece using first names only. Claire listened while pretending not to. The people around Roman did not behave like hired guards. They behaved like an extension of his will. She had photographed powerful men before. Chief executives, senators, financiers, old money heirs who believed the world had been constructed to prevent them from hearing the word no. Most of them performed authority. They sat straighter when cameras appeared. They lowered their voices because they had seen powerful men do it in films. Roman did not perform. He gave fewer instructions than anyone else in the room, yet every movement seemed to originate from him. Claire wondered what kind of life taught a person to stand that quietly beside a locked door with a gun in his hand. She wondered why part of her wanted to photograph him. Ethan left with the other two men. Roman locked the service entrance behind them. The penthouse became silent again. Claire looked at the memory card lying on the desk. You still have not told me what is on it. I do not know, but you know why people want it. I know what it may prove. What Roman poured water into a glass and handed it to her. Claire did not take it. His hand remained extended. It is water, Claire. You kidnapped me 5 minutes after insulting my appearance. I did not insult your appearance. You said I was not a supermodel. You are not. She stared at him. Something shifted at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile. The possibility of one. Claire took the glass. I am glad we cleared that up. Roman moved to the desk and picked up the card. A man working for me placed a concealed camera in a conference room on this floor earlier today. Claire waited. He believed someone was using one of my meetings as cover for an unauthorized transaction. What kind of transaction I do not know yet. You expect me to believe that I do not care what you believe. The words landed coldly, but Roman continued before she could respond. I care whether you understand the danger. The investigator removed this card after he was discovered. He was supposed to deliver it to Ethan. Someone intercepted him near the service corridor. Claire looked toward the door. The person who dropped it. Yes, is he alive? Barely. Her grip tightened around the glass. The two men near the elevator were waiting for the card. They were waiting for whoever recovered it. And that became me. Roman nodded. Claire looked down at the water. She had spent the afternoon arranging executives beneath flattering rooftop light, while 20 feet below men she had never seen were recording one another inside a hotel conference room. She had walked through the corridor thinking about her flight, her invoice, and whether she had enough clean clothes to survive another night in Chicago. Then she had noticed a black memory card against a patterned carpet. One object where it did not belong, that was all. Her life had been rearranged by a detail no one else saw. How did the investigator know where to place the camera, she asked. Roman's eyes narrowed slightly. He had reason to suspect the room. That is not what I asked. No. Who was supposed to be in there? Roman looked at her for a long moment. A logistics director named Grant Keller, possibly others, your employee. He runs freight operations for one of my companies, and the people he met, that is what the card may show. Claire set the glass down. Then look at it. Roman's gaze moved to her camera. You said the image appeared for 1 second. Yes. You recognized the corridor. Yes. You noticed 2 men and exchange a room number and a reflection in 1 second. I did not say I understood any of it, but you remember it. Claire felt the question beneath the statement. That is my job. Your job is taking photographs. My job is seeing what is inside them. Roman turned the card between his fingers. Can you examine it without changing the files? Yes, with the right equipment. Do you have that equipment in my room? Roman looked toward the service door. No. Claire gave a short, humorless laugh. Then we are done. I will have someone bring it. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. Roman waited. No one touches my equipment without me, she said. You walked into my suite carrying evidence stolen from my investigator. I found it on the floor. And now people are searching for you. That does not give your men permission to handle $20,000 of equipment. Roman studied her. This is about more than the price. Yes. He seemed to understand that immediately. What do you need, my laptop? A card reader from the black case, 2 external drives, the gray pouch with the data cables. I will send Ethan with you. I do not need a guard. You need 6. I will accept 1. You will accept 4. Claire folded her arms. 2. Roman's gaze held hers. 3. The number sat between them like an agreement neither wished to admit was 1. Fine, Claire said. They left the penthouse through the service corridor 10 minutes later. Roman came with her. Claire had not expected that. 3 security men moved ahead and behind them. Roman walked at her side close enough to intervene, far enough not to crowd her. The service passage lacked the soft gold lighting of the main hallway. Fluorescent strips hummed overhead. Laundry carts stood against unfinished walls. The expensive illusion of the hotel ended the moment guests were not meant to see it. Claire noticed Roman checking every reflective surface. The steel door of the service elevator, the glass panel of a fire extinguisher case, the dark screen of a vending machine. He used reflections the way she did, not for composition, for survival. They took the stairs down 4 floors, crossed through a staff laundry room, and entered a guest corridor from the opposite end of the building. Claire's room was on the 27th floor. The door looked untouched. She stopped several feet away. Roman looked at her. What Claire pointed to the upper corner of the frame. Before leaving for dinner, she had trapped a single strand of hair between the door and the jamb. It was an old habit from years of traveling alone with expensive equipment. The strand was gone. Roman's expression hardened. One of his men reached for the handle. Wait, Claire said. She lowered herself and examined the carpet. A thin crescent of black foam lay near the threshold. She recognized it immediately. Packing foam from my camera case. Roman stepped in front of her. Stay behind me. This time she did not argue. A security man opened the door. The room was dark. Nothing moved. Roman entered first. Claire followed after the guards cleared the bathroom and closet. At a glance, everything appeared normal. Her suitcase rested on the luggage bench. Her jacket hung over the chair. The bed was still unmade from that morning. Then she saw the zipper on her equipment case. It pointed toward the window. Claire always closed it toward the door. She crossed the room and knelt beside the case. Roman watched without speaking. The cameras were still there. So were the lenses. Nothing obvious had been stolen. Claire lifted the smaller backup camera and examined the memory card slot. A new scratch ran along the metal edge. They opened this. Looking for a copy, Roman said. They checked the drives, too. How do you know? Claire held up the first drive. A tiny piece of blue tape covered one screw. It had been lifted and replaced unevenly. They tried to make the room look untouched. They expected you to come back. The meaning settled over them. The search had not been hurried. Whoever entered had believed Claire would return alone and failed to notice. Roman turned to one of his men. "Find out who opened this room." The man left. Claire packed her laptop and drives into a shoulder bag. Her hands remained steady until she reached for the cable pouch. Then one finger trembled. Roman noticed. He did not mention it. Instead, he lifted the heavy black equipment case. Claire looked at him. "I can carry that." "I know." He carried it anyway. Back in the penthouse, the false room service card had been found abandoned on the 29th floor. Inside were 2 covered plates, a hotel uniform, plastic restraints, and a syringe. Claire stared at the photograph Ethan showed Roman. The image of the restraints stayed with her longer than the gun had. A gun could kill quickly. Restraints suggested time. Roman dismissed the security team from the main room but kept men at both entrances. Claire set up her equipment at the desk. She connected her laptop to an isolated power source and removed its network card before booting it. Roman watched. "No internet, not while I open unknown files. You assume the card could contain malware. I assume strangers who drug supermodels and carry restraints may not respect digital privacy." Roman accepted the answer. Food arrived from a restaurant outside the hotel, delivered through Roman's own people. Claire realized she had not eaten since noon. Roman placed a bowl of pasta in front of her. She looked at it. "How did you know? You looked at the room service menu when you entered. That tells you I was hungry, not what I wanted." "You stopped at the pasta section." Claire glanced toward the menu on the far table. She did not remember doing it. "That is unsettling. You notice door frames. I notice people." She took a bite. He had ordered correctly. Roman ate, standing beside the window. Even in his own suite, he kept the city at his back only when the glass showed the room's reflection. Claire opened the forensic software. The card appeared on the screen. 32 gigabytes. Most of the visible storage looked empty. That meant nothing. Deleted files were rarely gone. Damaged files often left fragments. Cameras remembered more than their owners realized. Roman watched the screen from across the room. "How long have you been doing this photography, seeing everything?" Claire looked up. The question was too personal for a man who had not yet told her what kind of empire he commanded. 11 years professionally. And before that? Since I understood that people behave differently when they think no one is looking. Roman's face gave her nothing. "What do you photograph when no one pays you?" he asked. Moments people would deny happened. Why? Because those are usually the honest ones. He looked back toward the snow. Claire studied the card directory. The first file appeared as a damaged preview. She created a copy of the entire card before touching anything else. Then she created a second copy. Roman watched the progress bars. 2-3. You only connected 2 drives. The third stays with me. He looked at her. "You still do not trust me. I do not know you. You know enough to stay. I know enough not to walk into the hallway." The distinction seemed to interest him. Claire began extracting the visible image. Pixel blocks appeared first. Dark carpet, brass trim, a man's shoulder, the edge of a doorway. Roman moved closer. The room grew quieter as the image resolved. Claire adjusted the exposure without altering the source file. A taller man stood in profile near the wall. His hand was extended towards someone outside the center of the frame. Behind him, a polished panel caught a blurred reflection. Claire enlarged the man's face. Roman's expression changed. "Grant Keller," he said. "The logistics director?" "Yes." Claire increased the contrast around the reflection. The second figure remained distorted by the curve of the brass, but part of his face appeared. Silver hair, heavy brow, a familiar line along the jaw. Roman leaned one hand against the desk. For the first time since Claire had met him, the control in his face did not look complete. She turned toward him. "You know him." Roman stared at the reflection. "That man stood beside me when they buried my father." Claire waited. The image sharpened one final degree. The face in the brass became clear enough to recognize. Roman spoke the name quietly. "Malcolm Reed." Claire looked from the reflection on the screen to Roman's face. The image was grainy, warped by polished brass and poor light, but the recognition in Roman was unmistakable. He had not guessed. He had known. "Who is he?" Claire asked. Roman remained beside the desk, one hand resting against the wood. "My father's closest advisor. He became mine." Claire turned back to the screen. The reflected man stood behind Grant Keller, half hidden by the curve of the wall panel. Even distorted, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who did not expect to be challenged inside that building. "You said he was involved in Savannah's appointment." His office entered it. "And now he appears in the same corridor as your logistics director." Roman said nothing. Claire enlarged the image until the pixels began to separate. "The reflection alone is not enough," she said. "A good attorney would argue distortion. They could say the face only resembles him because you already expected to see him." "I did not expect to see him. That will not matter." Roman looked at her. "You have done this before, not this. You understand evidence. I understand how people attack photographs when the truth inside them becomes inconvenient." Roman's eyes moved back to the image. "Can you prove it is Malcolm? Maybe, not from the reflection alone. What do you need? The original file structure, the timestamp, device information, any location data the camera stored. I also need to know exactly where the hidden camera was placed." Roman took out his phone. He made a call and asked for the investigator's equipment records, the floor plan, and every access log connected to the 31st floor. Claire listened while the forensic program processed the card. The visible photograph had been saved at 3:42 in the afternoon. That much appeared in the file header. The camera serial number matched a compact, mirrorless device registered to a private security company owned by Roman. Claire copied the number into a clean document. Roman ended the call. The camera was placed inside a leather portfolio on a side table in conference room C, facing the door, facing the main table. The investigator planned to record the meeting. Then this corridor image should not exist. Roman looked at the screen. Claire opened the embedded thumbnail. The angle was low and uneven, as though the camera had been carried at someone's side. "The device was removed from the room while it was still active," she said. "Someone may have grabbed the portfolio without switching it off." The camera captured this image while moving through the corridor. "Can the metadata tell us where if location services were enabled?" The software finished reading the file. A new set of fields appeared. Claire leaned closer. "Here." Roman moved beside her. The camera had stored location data through the hotel's internal wireless positioning system. It was not precise enough to identify an exact tile on the carpet, but it placed the device within a narrow section of the 31st floor. Claire opened the hotel plan Ethan had sent. She marked the elevator bank Roman's penthouse conference room C and the location estimate from the photograph. The image was taken roughly 27 yards from the ballroom entrance, she said. At 3:42, yes. Roman's expression sharpened. "I was speaking in the ballroom from 3:15 until 4:30. In front of how many people? 50 investors, hotel staff, my legal team. Then you have witnesses and security footage." Claire looked at the profile of Grant Keller. "This puts your logistics director outside an unregistered room while you were publicly somewhere else. It does not prove what he was doing." "No, but it proves you were not standing beside him." Roman looked at her. Claire understood what that meant. The evidence was not only about guilt, it was about separation. A single timestamp could create distance between Roman and a crime someone intended to place under his name. She studied the right edge of the frame. A door number was partially visible behind Grant's shoulder. The first 2 digits were clear, 3 and 1. The next 2 had been cut off by the edge of the photograph. Claire opened the full sensor data and recovered several rows of pixels beyond the displayed crop. The image widened by less than an inch. It was enough. 3117, she said. Roman called Ethan again. "Find out who booked Suite 3117 yesterday." Claire continued working while Roman waited. The answer came less than 3 minutes later. The room had been booked under the name Harrison Pike. Roman repeated the name once. His face went still. "Who is Harrison Pike?" Claire asked. "A consultant who worked for my father. Worked. He died 3 years ago." Claire looked at the hotel record Ethan had sent. The reservation had been paid through a corporate account belonging to North Meridian Holdings. Roman stared at the company name. "You know that one too," Claire said. "I ordered it dissolved 18 months ago." "Why?" "It was moving money through companies that had no legitimate business with one another." "Who controlled it, Malcolm?" The silence between them deepened. Claire looked again at the screen. Every answer seemed to contain another room behind it. Did he tell you it was closed? Yes? And you believed him? Roman's gaze remained on the company record. I verified the documents. Documents can be manufactured. I know that now. Claire heard something beneath the words. Not embarrassment, not simple anger. Betrayal had a different temperature. It was colder because it began inside trust. She returned to the card directory. The visible photograph was not the only file. A second entry appeared beneath it marked as damaged. The file size was larger, but the image could not open. Claire created another copy before attempting recovery. Roman watched the progress bar. What is that, a second image? What does it show? I do not know yet. The program mapped the damaged sectors. A wide section near the center had been corrupted during the writing process. Claire enlarged the sector pattern. This was interrupted. Deleted. No, the camera stopped writing before the file was complete because it was damaged possibly. More likely, someone removed the card while the camera was still saving. Roman looked at the small piece of black plastic on the desk. The investigator was carrying the device. Someone grabbed him. He tried to remove the card before they took the camera, or someone else pulled it out. Can you recover the image? Some of it. How long? Claire checked the structure. 2 hours if the missing blocks are shallow. Longer if the data overlaps. Do it. She turned toward him. That was not a request. No. Claire closed the laptop halfway. Roman's eyes moved to her hand. What are you doing stopping? Why? Because I still do not know what I am helping you uncover. You know enough. No, I know someone used your hotel, your employee, and a dead man's name. I know your advisor may be involved. I do not know what they were buying or selling. Roman's voice lowered. That information could put you in more danger. I am already in danger. That does not mean I should deepen it. You brought armed men to my room, searched my background, and kept me inside your suite. Do not pretend ignorance is a gift. Roman held her gaze. Claire continued. If that image shows drugs, weapons, or people being hurt, I decide whether I keep helping. You do not decide for me. The room became very quiet. Snow pressed against the windows. The city below looked distant enough to belong to another life. Roman walked to the bar but did not pour a drink. For several seconds he faced the glass shelves. Then he spoke. My family built its money through freight theft, illegal gambling, extortion, and smuggling. Claire said nothing. My father believed fear was more reliable than contracts. When I took control, I ended the operations that depended on bodies disappearing. That is not the same as becoming innocent. I did not say it was. Roman turned toward her. For 4 years, I have moved our holdings into legal transportation, construction, hospitality, and private security. Some men accepted it because the money remained good. Others believe I am dismantling the structure that made them powerful. Malcolm, yes. What was in Conference Room C, I received information that Grant Keller was arranging a sale through North Meridian. The items may be military tracking modules stolen from a defense contractor. Claire's fingers rested on the edge of the laptop. What can they track? Cargo, vehicles, equipment, anything carrying the paired signal. Military shipments. Yes. Civilian infrastructure. Yes. And the buyer I do not know. Claire looked at him for a long moment. You are asking me to help a mafia boss prevent an illegal weapons sale. I'm asking you to recover evidence of a crime committed through my companies without my approval. That answer is very carefully built. It is still true. Claire opened the laptop again. Roman did not thank her. He understood that continuing was not forgiveness. The recovery process began. Broken sections of the image appeared in slow layers. Dark shapes, a table edge, a man's sleeve, silver metal beneath overhead light. While the program worked, Claire opened the original corridor file and examined the profile of Grant Keller. She compared his jacket, watch, and shoes with public photographs Ethan provided. The jacket matched one Grant had worn at a Vale freight event 2 weeks earlier. The watch had a distinctive square face with a cracked lower corner. Not perfect identification. Enough to make denial difficult. Roman stood at the window. Claire watched his reflection in the glass. You trusted Malcolm, she said. Roman did not turn. He kept me alive. When after my father died, Claire waited. Roman's face remained faintly visible in the dark window. I was 19. Half the men around me believed I was too young to inherit anything. The other half believed I could be controlled. Malcolm taught me how to recognize which man intended to betray me before he reached for the knife. And now he is the man holding it. Roman looked at her through the reflection. That appears to be the case. Claire returned her attention to the screen. The damaged image gained another row of detail, a conference table, 4 men, a silver case near the center. She adjusted the exposure. "What made you become independent?" Roman asked. The question came without warning. Claire kept her eyes on the image. "I wanted control of my work." "That is the professional answer. It is also the true one, not all of it." She looked at him. "You ask personal questions for a man who answers everything like testimony." Roman accepted the criticism. Claire considered ignoring him. Instead, she watched another section of the file reconstruct itself and spoke. "When I was 24, I assisted a photographer for a national magazine. I shot most of an editorial after he became too drunk to work." Roman said nothing. The images were published. His name was on them. Mine was removed. Did you challenge it? I had the original files, emails, and timestamps. I could prove every frame was mine. What happened? The editor told me I was talented, but no one knew my name. He said a public fight would make agencies think I was difficult. Roman's expression changed slightly. "So you left. I finished the contract. Then I walked away from the agency and every shared rights agreement attached to it." "Did you keep the evidence, every file? For 7 years, 11? Why, Claire looked at the fractured image on her screen. "Because metadata does not forget just because powerful people do." Roman was silent. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. "My father used my signature before I was old enough to understand what he was signing." Claire looked up. "On what loans?" "Property transfers. Agreements with men I had never met. After he died, I inherited the consequences along with the name. You could have walked away. No. Could not or would not, Roman considered the difference. Both." The program chimed. The first major section of the damaged image had resolved. Claire turned the laptop toward the light. Conference room C appeared on the screen. The camera had been placed low on a side table. The angle captured most of the room. Grant Keller stood beside the silver case. 2 men sat across from him. Their faces were partly visible. A 4th figure stood at the head of the table. The upper half of his body had been lost in the corrupted section, but his hands rested on a document bearing a dark blue corporate seal. Claire enlarged the logo, North Meridian Holdings. Roman came closer. The silver case was open. Inside were 6 black modules arranged in fitted foam. Roman recognized them immediately. "Those are the trackers." Claire magnified the document. A signature appeared at the bottom. Roman Vale. He stared at it. "You did not sign that," Claire said. "No. How can you tell the final stroke curves left?" Claire looked at him. "That is all my signature never does." She opened a scanned contract bearing Roman's verified signature. He was right. The forged version copied the overall shape, but not the movement. Several letters had identical digital edges, suggesting they had been assembled from pieces of earlier documents. "A copied signature imitates appearance," Claire said. "It does not understand motion." Roman leaned closer. "Can you prove it is forged with the source documents and a handwriting specialist?" "Yes." Another section of the image completed. Malcolm's face emerged. He stood at the head of the table, one hand beside Roman's forged signature. There was no reflection now, no distortion. The image showed him clearly. Roman did not move. Claire heard his breathing change. It was the only sign that the site had reached him. She saved the recovered section to both external drives. Then she created an encrypted copy. "What are you doing?" Roman asked. "Making sure this does not disappear. I can secure it. I am securing it too." He looked at her. Claire met his eyes. "You said reputation is built from somebody's version of the truth. I prefer more than one copy." Roman gave a small nod. Her phone vibrated beside the laptop. The screen displayed an unknown number. Claire opened the message. For 1 second she did not understand what she was seeing. Then the room seemed to tilt. It was a photograph of her younger brother Daniel leaving his law office in Boston. The image had been taken that evening. Snow clung to the shoulders of his coat. He was looking down at his phone, unaware of the camera across the street. Beneath the image were 6 words. "Delete the files. Walk away alone." Roman saw her face. "What is it?" Claire turned the phone toward him. The warmth left his expression. "Who is he?" "My brother." Roman reached for his phone. Claire caught his wrist. "No." His gaze dropped to her hand. "You do not call anyone until you tell me what you are doing. I am putting protection around him. Without warning him, if we warn him, he may panic. He is not one of your employees. I know. Do you?" Roman held her eyes. Then he lowered his phone. "What do you want me to do?" The question surprised her. Claire looked at Daniel's photograph again. "Someone needs to watch the building, quietly. No contact unless there is an immediate threat." Roman nodded. "I have people in Boston I trust. How do you know where he works?" A pause. Claire understood before he answered. "You investigated me the moment you entered my suite. How much employment history? Family? Financial records? Criminal record?" "I do not have a criminal record, I know." Claire stepped away from him. "You had no right. I needed to know whether you were connected to the card. You could have asked me, and trusted the answer." The words came too quickly. Claire's face hardened. Roman saw it. He looked away first. "You are right," he said. She had prepared for an argument. The apology left nowhere for the anger to go. "That does not fix it. No, you do not get to call control protection whenever it makes you feel better. No." Claire studied him. There was no performance in the admission. No attempt to persuade her that the violation had been necessary. He had done it. She had named it. He accepted the cost. Roman called Ethan and arranged quiet protection for Daniel according to Claire's instructions. When the call ended, Ethan said something that changed Roman's face. "What?" Claire asked. Roman looked toward the service entrance. "The hotel camera system has been accessed again. By whom we do not know." A second message arrived on Roman's phone. He read it. Then he reached for his jacket. "We are leaving." Claire glanced at the reconstruction. "It is not finished. Copy the current data. I need another 40 minutes. You do not have it." The lights flickered once. Then the entire penthouse went dark. Emergency lights came on near the floor, casting the room in low red bands. Roman drew his gun. Claire disconnected the drives and pushed them into her bag. Voices sounded beyond the main door. Not hotel staff. Too quiet, too coordinated. Roman crossed to the service entrance and opened it. Ethan appeared on the other side. "Garage route is compromised," he said. "We have a maintenance elevator to 24, then stairs to the lower structure." Roman looked at Claire. "Stay between us." She lifted her camera bag. "I am not leaving the equipment." Roman took the heavier case without arguing. They moved into the service corridor. The red emergency lights followed them through unfinished concrete passages and narrow stairwells. Claire heard footsteps somewhere above. A door slammed. Someone shouted into a radio. On the 24th floor, Ethan opened the maintenance elevator with a physical key. They descended to the second underground level. The doors opened onto cold air and fluorescent light. A black sedan waited near the exit ramp. Roman guided Claire toward it. Then Claire saw movement in the rear window of a parked van, a reflection, a man raising his arm. "Roman." He turned as the first shot struck the sedan's windshield. Roman pulled Claire behind a concrete pillar. Ethan returned fire. Glass shattered across the garage. Claire dropped to one knee, lifted her camera, and pressed the shutter. 3 rapid frames. The van, the shooter's face, a second man near the ramp. The partial plate reflected in a puddle beneath the vehicle. Roman looked at her as if she had lost her mind. "Get in the car. They will deny they were here." Another shot hit the pillar. Roman pushed her toward the rear door. This time she obeyed. The sedan reversed hard tires, screaming against concrete. Ethan fired through the open passenger window as the driver turned between 2 support columns and accelerated toward the opposite exit. Claire stayed low until they burst into the street. Chicago rushed past in snow headlights and black glass. Her hands began to shake. Roman sat beside her, breathing hard, blood darkening one sleeve where concrete or a bullet fragment had cut him. He looked at the camera in Claire's grip. "You took photographs during a gunfight." Claire checked the images. The plate was visible. So was one attacker's face. People lie after the noise stops. Roman looked at her for a long moment. Then he took out his phone and sent the driver a new destination. "Then we make sure the images survive." The sedan turned west, carrying them away from the hotel as morning began to pale the sky behind Chicago. Claire watched the city dissolve through the rear window. Glass towers gave way to low buildings. Low buildings gave way to warehouse districts, then long gray stretches of highway bordered by winter trees. Snow gathered in the dead grass along the shoulder. The sky had the flat color of steel. Roman sat beside her with one hand pressed against the blood on his sleeve. "You are hurt," Claire said. "It is not serious. You are bleeding through your jacket. That does not make it serious." Claire reached for his arm. Roman looked at her hand before allowing her to touch him. The fabric was torn near his upper arm. The bullet had not entered cleanly. It had grazed the skin and carried a line of metal or concrete through the flesh. Claire removed a clean cloth from her camera bag and pressed it against the wound. Roman inhaled once. She looked at him. "Still not serious. I have had worse. That is not the standard I use." For a moment, something close to amusement moved through his eyes. Then the driver turned off the highway. They entered a neighborhood where every house looked deliberately unmemorable. Pale brick, closed garages, small front lawns buried beneath old snow, no children outside, no delivery trucks, no signs that anyone was watching. Claire noticed 3 cameras before the car reached the end of the block. One at the intersection, one hidden beneath a porch light, one behind the dark glass of a mailbox across the street. The sedan pulled into the garage of a 2-story house. The door closed behind them before anyone got out. Roman waited until Ethan checked the interior. Only then did he open the car door. Claire stepped into the garage with her equipment bag over one shoulder. The heavier case sat in Roman's hand. "I can take that," she said. "You already said that and you ignored me." "Yes." She held out her hand. Roman looked at it. Claire did not lower it. After a moment, he gave her the case. It was a small victory, but she took it. Inside the house felt less like a home than a set built for one. There was a couch, a dining table, a kitchen with clean counters and framed prints of landscapes no one would remember. The shelves held books that had never been opened. The refrigerator contained bottled water, eggs, fruit, and several containers labeled only with dates. Claire stood in the center of the living room. "This place has no history." Roman removed his jacket. It was not built to have one. The blood on his shirt had spread farther than she expected. Ethan opened a medical case on the kitchen counter. Roman waved him away. "Secure the perimeter." Ethan looked at the wound, then at Claire. "She knows how to use a first aid kit," Claire answered for herself. "I know how to stop a man from pretending he is not injured." Ethan gave Roman a look Claire could not interpret. Then he left through the back hall. Roman sat at the kitchen table. Claire cut the sleeve of his shirt with a pair of trauma scissors. His skin was warm beneath her fingers. The wound ran along the outside of his arm, red and ragged but shallow. She cleaned it. Roman did not move. "You do this often?" he asked. "Photographers travel with people who think ladders, cliffs, and moving vehicles are harmless if the light is good. You have treated gunshot wounds, no? Then you should look more concerned. I'm trying not to encourage you." Claire applied pressure until the bleeding slowed. Roman watched her face. "You were afraid in the garage?" "Yes." "You still took the photographs?" "Yes." "Why?" She looked at him. "I told you. People lie after the noise stops. They do. That is not the whole reason." Claire taped clean gauze over the wound. "You ask a lot of questions while giving very few answers." Roman looked toward the window. The blinds were closed, but a thin line of morning light slipped through the edge. "I asked because fear usually makes people protect themselves. I was protecting myself. With a camera, with proof." Roman looked back at her. Claire packed the medical supplies away. "Proof is the only thing that has ever made powerful men nervous around me." Roman said nothing. She carried her equipment into the dining room. The table was large enough for 6 people, though the house looked as if no one had ever shared a meal there. Claire placed her laptop in the center and connected both external drives. Roman entered a code into a panel beside a closed door. The lock released. Inside was a small office lined with filing cabinets, secure communication equipment, and a wall monitor. He handed Claire a card with the access code. She stared at it. "You are giving me the code you need access. You had my room searched before trusting me with a door." "I did not have your room searched. You investigated my life." "Yes, and now I can enter your secure office." Roman met her eyes. "I am correcting the imbalance." Claire slipped the card into her pocket. "That is a very polished way to say you are trying. It is the language I know." She opened the forensic program. The damaged image had continued reconstructing during the drive. Several new sections were visible. Roman stood beside her. Grant Keller's face was now clear. The two men across the table remained unidentified. The silver case sat open between them. Malcolm stood at the head of the room with one hand resting beside Roman's forged signature. Claire enlarged the tracker modules. Each carried a serial number. "We need the defense contractor's inventory records," she said. Roman went to the secure office and returned with a folder. "You already have them. I suspected this was the product." Claire studied the list. 6 modules had disappeared from a shipment 3 weeks earlier. The serial numbers in the photograph matched. She looked at Roman. "This is enough to connect the meeting to the theft, not enough to prove where the shipment was going. Do you have access to freight records?" "Yes." "Then bring me everything linked to Grant Keller for the last month. Routes, driver logs, fuel receipts, access codes, all of it." Roman raised an eyebrow. "You are giving orders now. I am telling you what the image needs." He almost smiled. Then he went back into the office. They worked through the morning. Roman brought records. Claire organized them. Vale Freight had moved legitimate medical equipment, construction materials, and electronics through 6 terminals across the Midwest. Grant had access to all of them. Claire compared the tracker serial numbers with shipping logs. One route stood out. A refrigerated truck had left a defense contractor's warehouse outside Milwaukee carrying electronic components. It arrived in Chicago 48 minutes late. The driver reported traffic. The highway cameras showed no congestion. Roman pulled fuel card records. The truck had stopped at a private warehouse near Cicero. North Meridian Holdings leased the building. Claire leaned back. There, Roman looked at the screen. "The modules were removed before the truck reached your terminal and moved through a property Malcolm controlled. Grant falsified the arrival time." Roman's expression remained calm, but Claire saw the anger in the way his fingers tightened around the folder. They found more. A private aircraft had been booked to leave Gary, Indiana 2 days later under a North Meridian account. The destination was listed as Montreal, but the flight plan had been altered before cancellation. A second payment moved through a shell company connected to one of the men in the conference room. Roman identified him as an intermediary known for moving restricted technology overseas. The evidence was no longer a single photograph. It was a structure. Claire looked at the table covered in records. "You have been building this case longer than the card." Roman stood near the window. "I knew something was wrong 14 months ago, but you did not know where." "No. The card gave you the room. Your work gave me the shape." Claire looked at him. The words were simple. They landed harder than praise. She returned to the image. The camera had captured the moment before the investigator was attacked. In the window behind Malcolm, a reflection showed a man entering from behind the leather portfolio. Only an arm and shoulder were visible. Claire enhanced the jacket. A security company logo appeared near the sleeve. Roman recognized it. One of the hotel contractors. Someone Malcolm placed inside the building. "Yes." "Then he did not only use your meeting, he built the entire corridor around it." Roman said nothing. Claire watched him. The betrayal was expanding beyond one man's secret transaction. Malcolm had used Roman's hotel, Roman's staff, Roman's companies, and Roman's name. He had turned trust into infrastructure. Claire understood that kind of theft. It was not the loss of money that remained with you. It was the discovery that someone had entered the space you believed belonged to you and rearranged it without your knowledge. She closed the image. Roman looked at her. "Why did you stop?" "Because you are not seeing the screen anymore. I am seeing it." "No, you are seeing him." Roman's face hardened slightly. Claire continued. "You said Malcolm kept you alive after your father died. He did. That does not explain why you ignored 14 months of warning signs." Roman moved away from the window. "You think I ignored them? I think you investigated everyone except the person you did not want to suspect." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he sat across from her. "My father was killed outside a restaurant in Bridgeport." Claire remained quiet. "I was 19. He had spent years teaching everyone around him that power belonged to whoever could take it. The night he died, every man who had smiled at our table began calculating what my weakness was worth." Roman looked down at his hands. "Malcolm came to my mother's house before sunrise. He moved her, my sister, and me before the men who killed my father could reach us. He gave me names. He showed me which accounts had been emptied and which captains had already changed sides. He made you king. He taught me how not to die long enough to become one." Claire studied his face. What did he ask for in return? Nothing. That is never true. Roman looked at her. No, it is not. The house remained silent around them. He believed I would become my father, Roman said. More careful, more disciplined, but the same in every way that mattered. And when you did not, he called it weakness. Claire remembered the forged signature. A copy imitates shape, she said. It does not understand movement. Roman's eyes narrowed. She turned the laptop toward him. Malcolm did not want to serve you. He wanted to rebuild your father through you. Roman looked at the image of Malcolm standing beside the false signature. For several seconds he did not speak. Then he said, "You see too much." Claire met his gaze. "That is why you kept me." The words changed the air between them. Roman's voice lowered. "I kept you because men were waiting outside. That was the first reason." He looked away. Claire felt the pulse in her throat. She did not press him. The silence between them had become different from the silence in the penthouse. It was no longer built entirely from danger. Roman stood and went to the kitchen. Claire watched him fill 2 glasses with water. When he returned, he set one beside her laptop. His fingers brushed hers. The contact was brief. Neither of them moved immediately. The warmth of his hand, the faint scent of smoke trapped in his shirt from the garage, the way his eyes dropped to her mouth and returned to her face without apology. Then Ethan entered through the back hall. Roman stepped away. "Perimeter is secure," Ethan said. No one followed the sedan. Claire looked at him. "You are sure we changed vehicles twice and ran counter-surveillance for 40 miles? Roman asked. "What about her brother? 2 men in place. No contact, no sign of an active approach." Claire released a breath she had not realized she was holding. Ethan placed a phone on the table. "Grant Keller has disappeared. His wife says he left yesterday morning and has not called." Malcolm, Roman asked. "Still unreachable. Freeze every account connected to North Meridian. That will alert him. He already knows we have the card." Ethan looked at Claire's computer. "How much do we have enough to prove the theft, the meeting, and the forged signature?" Claire said. "Not enough to know where Malcolm planned to send the modules." Ethan nodded. "You trust her now?" Roman answered without hesitation. "Yes." Claire looked at him. The answer did not feel tactical. Ethan noticed the look between them and said nothing. He left again. Roman returned to the files. Claire watched him for a moment. "You said that quickly. What, that you trust me? You placed evidence in locations I cannot control. You photographed my enemies during an attack. You told me when I violated your boundaries instead of pretending it did not matter. That is your definition of trustworthy. It is more useful than obedience." Claire looked down at the data. No one had ever described her defiance as useful before. The day passed in concentrated silence. They ate sandwiches at the kitchen counter. Roman removed his jacket, then rolled his shirt sleeve carefully above the bandage. Without the suit, he looked younger, less like the man whose name could silence a room. Claire told him about her first camera, a used Canon her mother bought at a pawn shop when Claire was 16. Roman told her his sister Elena had once tried fashion modeling for 3 years before deciding she hated people choosing how she should stand. Claire smiled. "That explains Savannah. She hired her. And you agreed to host the fitting. I agreed to provide a secure room. You still ordered a supermodel." Roman looked at her. "That sentence is going to follow me for a long time, if you are lucky." He laughed once. The sound was quiet and unfamiliar, as though the house had never heard it before. By late afternoon, Claire's eyes burned from the screen. She stood and carried her glass to the kitchen. A sharp edge on the damaged equipment case caught her palm. She hissed. Blood appeared along a shallow cut. Roman crossed the room before she could reach the sink. He took her wrist gently. "It is nothing," Claire said. "You used that standard on me." "And you disagreed, yes." He cleaned the cut beneath cold water. His hands were steady, then his thumb brushed the center of her palm. The movement stopped. Claire looked at him. Roman lifted his eyes to hers. For a moment, neither of them spoke. You are afraid of something, she said. No, that was too fast. His hand remained around hers. I am afraid of making decisions for you and convincing myself it is protection. Claire's breath caught. Roman continued. I know how to secure buildings, remove threats, and control information. I do not know how to keep someone safe without turning them into another variable. Claire looked down at his hand around her wrist. Then start by asking. Roman released her. May I finish bandaging your hand? Yes. He wrapped the cut carefully. When he finished, Claire did not pull away at once. Trust was not safety. It was the choice to remain when you understood the danger clearly. Roman reached into a drawer and placed a second vehicle key on the counter. Then he set a phone beside it. There is a secure hotel outside Naperville. The address is stored in the phone. The garage opens with the key. Claire looked at him. You want me to leave. I want you to be able to. And the evidence, take your copies. You would let me walk out with them. You already placed copies beyond my reach. That is not an answer. Roman met her eyes. Yes, I would let you walk out with them. Claire looked at the key. For the first time since entering his penthouse, the door was not merely unlocked. It belonged to her. She picked up the key. Roman's face did not change. Claire placed it beside her laptop. I am staying until the evidence is complete. You do not owe me that. I am not staying because I owe you. He understood. The sun disappeared early. Snow began again after dark. Claire finished encrypting the records and uploaded them through the secure connection. She set an automatic release protocol. If she failed to enter a code every 12 hours, the files would be sent to a federal attorney, a journalist she trusted, and an encrypted storage account outside the country. Roman read the protocol. You arranged this when, in the car. You did not trust me. I trusted you enough to tell you before it activated. Roman looked at the screen. That distinction appears important to you. It should be important to everyone. He nodded. They ate at the dining table. The evidence had been pushed to one side. For several minutes, the room almost felt lived in. Claire told Roman she preferred hotel rooms facing brick walls because skylines encouraged people to look past what was close. Roman said he had never chosen a hotel room for the view. Then what do you choose it for? She asked. Exits. Claire looked at him across the table. That may be the saddest answer I have ever heard. It is a practical one. Those are often the saddest. The porch light across the street turned on. Claire noticed it through the narrow gap in the blinds. Then it went off. 3 seconds later, it turned on again. Roman followed her gaze. What, that light? It may be motion-activated. No. How do you know the snow beneath it has not moved? Roman stood. The warmth left the room. He turned off the kitchen light. The house fell into darkness. Claire closed her laptop and disconnected the drives. Roman drew his gun. A faint metallic sound came from the front hall, a key entering the lock. Claire whispered, Who else has access? Roman did not answer immediately. The lock turned. His face changed. Only one man. The front door opened. Malcolm Reed stepped inside as though he had returned to a house that still belonged to him. He removed his gloves slowly. 2 armed men entered behind him. Malcolm's gaze moved across the dark room, settling first on Roman, then on Claire, then on the laptop and the documents spread across the table. The photographer, he said. Roman stood between Claire and the doorway. You used Savannah's booking. Malcolm closed the door. I used an appointment you never wanted. One of his men moved toward the hallway. The other remained beside the entrance. Malcolm walked into the dining room and sat without being invited. He placed his phone face down on the table. A tiny red reflection pulsed along its metal edge. Claire saw it. Malcolm folded his hands. We are going to have one conversation, Roman. His eyes moved to Claire. When it ends, either she walks out of here alive or neither of us gets what we want. The words settled over the room without raising their voice. Claire remained behind Roman, one hand resting near the closed laptop, the other beneath the table beside her camera bag. She could hear the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the distant rush of a car passing through snow outside. Ordinary sounds. That was what made the guns feel more dangerous. Malcolm looked comfortable in the dining chair. He had the relaxed posture of a man who believed the room had already accepted his authority. His coat remained buttoned. His gloves rested beside the phone he had placed face down on the table. The red reflection pulsed again along the metal edge. Recording. Roman did not sit. You threatened her brother. Malcolm's expression did not change. I reminded her that choices have consequences. You photographed a civilian outside his office. No one touched him. Claire watched Malcolm's hands, open palms, relaxed fingers, the posture of a man presenting terms rather than defending himself. Roman stepped closer to the table. If one of your people goes near him again, there will be no conversation left to have. Malcolm gave a faint smile. There he is. Roman's eyes narrowed. The boy I kept alive after his father left him an empire full of knives. You did not come here to remember old times. No, I came because you have mistaken sentiment for strategy. Malcolm glanced toward the documents beside Claire's laptop. You found North Meridian. You found Keller. You recovered the photograph. Very impressive. His attention shifted to Claire, especially for someone who should have handed over a memory card and returned to her room. Claire said nothing. Malcolm continued, You have no idea what kind of structure you walked into. I know enough to see you built part of it behind his back. One of Malcolm's men looked at her. Malcolm did not. He kept his gaze on Roman. The legitimate companies are not ready to carry what you expect from them. Freight margins are shrinking. Construction is tied up in permits. The hotels look beautiful, but beauty does not protect families when rivals decide you have grown weak. You stole military technology. I created revenue. You forged my signature. I preserved your distance. Roman's voice remained quiet. You used my name because yours was not strong enough to survive the transaction. Malcolm's expression tightened. Only slightly. Claire saw it. Roman had struck the correct place. Malcolm leaned back. You think this is about pride? It is always about pride with men who call betrayal necessary. The guard near the hallway shifted his weight. Roman noticed. So did Claire. Malcolm spread his hands. North Meridian was designed to absorb risk. Nothing touched your personal filings. Nothing reached your sister. The modules would have moved once the accounts would have closed, and the money would have stabilized the transition you keep insisting on. You attacked my investigator. He created a complication. You had Savannah Chase drugged. She was delayed. She was never in danger. Claire looked at him. You left her unconscious in a stranger's car. Malcolm finally turned toward her. His eyes were pale and almost colorless beneath the dining room light. You think danger begins when someone is injured? No, Claire said. I think danger begins when a man decides other people are acceptable costs. For the first time, Malcolm studied her without dismissing her. Roman remained between them. Malcolm looked back at him. This is what you are protecting now. She is not part of this. She made herself part of it. She found what you dropped. She copied it. She preserved it. Malcolm's mouth hardened. Words. No, Claire said. Evidence. The room became still. The phone on the table continued recording. Claire looked at Malcolm's posture, then at the two men he had brought. One watched Roman's hands, the other watched the camera bag near Claire's chair. Neither had searched for the memory card. Neither had demanded the drives. Malcolm had asked for nothing physical. He had come into the house, sat at the table, and started explaining. Not threatening, explaining. Claire looked at the phone again. Roman noticed her attention. She spoke carefully. He did not come for the card. Malcolm's eyes moved toward her. Roman did not turn. What are you seeing? He asked. Claire watched Malcolm. If he wanted the files, he would have sent the two men without coming himself. He knows the evidence has been copied. Destroying one card would not change anything. Malcolm remained silent. Claire continued. He needs something stronger than the photographs. Roman looked at the phone. Claire saw the realization arrive. Malcolm's expression changed at the same moment, only enough to confirm it. You need his voice, Claire said. The guard near the hallway took one step forward. Roman drew his gun and pointed it at the man's chest. The movement was so fast the room seemed to catch up afterward. Stay where you are, Roman said. The guard stopped. Claire kept her eyes on Malcolm. You want Roman to say he approved a meeting, or knew about North Meridian, or accepted the money, anything that changes how the images are interpreted. Malcolm's voice cooled. You believe you understand this because you know how to enlarge a photograph. I understand framing. Claire nodded toward the phone. You are building one now. Roman looked at Malcolm. You plan to use this recording against me. Malcolm's face returned to calm. I plan to document our conversation. You plan to manufacture authorization after the fact. I plan to give you a chance to take control of what already exists. Claire reached slowly toward the camera bag. The man beside the entrance moved his hand beneath his jacket. Roman shifted the gun toward him. Do not. The man froze. Claire removed her camera and placed it on the table. Malcolm watched her fingers. She pressed the recording button. A small red light appeared beside the lens. Now there are 2 recordings in this room. Malcolm looked at the camera, then at Claire. You think that protects you? No. She adjusted the angle so the frame included Malcolm, Roman, and both armed men. It makes the room harder to rewrite later. Malcolm's eyes settled on the equipment bag. That camera can be destroyed. The first file has already uploaded. The statement was partly a calculation. Her transmitter had been active before Malcolm entered. The camera was paired with the secure system in the office. She did not know whether the house connection had been compromised, but Malcolm did not know that either. One of the guards looked toward Malcolm. Claire continued before uncertainty could show. Every 30 seconds, a compressed copy leaves the device. If the signal stops unexpectedly, the full evidence package releases automatically. Malcolm studied her face. You arranged that in the time between seeing the porch light and my opening the door? No. I arranged it because men like you always believe the object containing the truth is the same thing as the truth. Roman looked at her. The faintest trace of approval passed through his eyes. Malcolm leaned forward. You are very confident for a woman sitting in a house no one knows exists. My brother knows I am working. My attorney knows I am in Illinois. 3 people receive the files if I fail to enter a code. Are those people prepared for what reaches them? They do not need to be brave. They only need internet access. Silence returned. Malcolm's thumb moved once against the table, the first visible fracture in his control. Roman lowered his gun by less than an inch. What do you want? He asked. Malcolm looked at him. Stability. You came with guns. I came because you no longer recognize stability unless someone places it in front of you. You want me to authorize North Meridian. I want you to acknowledge that the operation protected the organization. It protected you. It protected all of us. Roman's voice sharpened. You sold stolen tracking modules to a foreign intermediary. I sold 6 devices that would be obsolete within a year. You do not know where they would have gone. I knew enough. You knew the payment. Malcolm's face hardened again. You enjoy judging the methods now that the money has built your hotels and put your name on hospital wings. Roman stepped closer. My father built the first fortune. I inherited it. I am trying to turn it into something that does not require another 19-year-old to learn which men plan to kill him. Malcolm gave a humorless smile. And you think construction permits will save you? I think refusing to poison everything we touch is a beginning. You sound like your sister. Roman's eyes turned cold. Leave Elena out of this. She is already in it. Her company, her campaign, her model, her reputation. Every clean thing you build rests on foundations men like me kept from collapsing. Roman stared at him. No, men like you taught yourselves to believe the house belonged to you because you stood near it during the fire. Malcolm rose slowly. The chair moved against the floor. Both guards became more alert. Claire kept the camera steady. Malcolm faced Roman across the table. I gave you names when everyone else lied. You gave me the names that kept you closest. I buried men who wanted you dead, and kept alive the version of me you could control. The words struck deeper than Claire expected. Malcolm's expression emptied. Roman continued. You did not save me because you believed in me. You saved me because you believed you could rebuild my father through me. For one moment, Malcolm looked older, not weaker, wounded. Then the old composure returned. You would have died without me. Yes. The simple agreement unsettled him more than denial would have. Roman's voice lowered. I owe my life to the man you were. That does not give the man you became ownership of it. Malcolm looked at the documents. You believe these pages remove me. They show what you did. They show what you allowed to happen under your name. That is why you came for the recording. Malcolm glanced at Claire's camera. Roman followed his gaze. You knew the photographs placed you in the room. You needed my voice to place me there with you. Malcolm said nothing. Claire saw Roman understand the full shape of the trap. The original images could suggest that Malcolm acted under Roman's authority. The forged documents could be challenged, but a recording of Roman acknowledging the operation would turn the lie into an apparent confession. Malcolm had not entered the house to negotiate. He had entered to edit the meaning of the evidence. Roman looked at the phone. End the recording. Malcolm's eyes remained on him. No. Roman raised the gun again. The guard near the entrance reached beneath his coat. Claire saw the movement in the camera screen half a second before she saw it directly. Roman. The guard drew. Roman turned. The gunshot shattered the quiet. The bullet struck the ceiling above the kitchen. Roman drove his shoulder into the man before he could fire again. They hit the wall hard enough to knock a framed landscape to the floor. The second guard moved toward Claire. She grabbed the glass coffee pot from the table and threw it at his feet. It shattered. Hot coffee and broken glass spread across the floor. The man recoiled. Claire lifted the camera with both hands and swung the metal body into his wrist. His gun fell beneath the table. He struck her shoulder. Pain flashed down her arm. Claire stumbled against the chair but kept the camera in her grip. Roman slammed the first guard into the wall and tore the weapon from his hand. Malcolm drew a gun from beneath his coat. Roman turned toward him. Both weapons rose. The room stopped. Roman stood near the kitchen, blood showing through the bandage on his arm. Malcolm stood beside the table. Claire remained between them, but lower one hand braced against the floor. The two guards had gone still. No one wanted to be the first man to discover which loyalty survived a bullet. Malcolm's gun pointed at Roman. Roman's pointed at Malcolm. Claire reached for the camera. The red light was still on. "The recording is running," she said. Neither man looked at her. Claire pushed herself upright. "If anyone dies in this room, the footage leaves with every file we recovered." Malcolm's voice remained calm. "You assume the release system works. You assume it does not." His eyes flicked toward her. That was enough. Roman stepped slightly to the side, changing the angle between Malcolm and Claire, protecting her without ordering her to move. Malcolm noticed. "So this is your weakness now?" Roman did not look away. "No." Claire's pulse hammered against her throat. Roman continued. "She is the person who saw what you were doing while every man I paid was still looking in the wrong direction." Malcolm's mouth tightened. "You would risk everything for a stranger." Roman's answer came quietly. "I am risking everything because the man I trusted made strangers safer than loyalty." The words hung between them. Malcolm shifted his aim. Roman's finger tightened against the trigger. Claire stepped closer to the table. "Your phone recorded the threats against my brother," she said. "It recorded your admission that North Meridian was designed to absorb risk. It recorded you calling the operation necessary." Malcolm's eyes stayed on Roman. Claire continued. "You came here to create evidence. You did." For the first time, uncertainty appeared plainly in Malcolm's face. He looked toward the phone. The device that had been his weapon now sat between them as a witness. Claire took another step. "You can pull the trigger. You can destroy the camera. You can kill everyone in the room." Her voice shook, but she did not hide it. "The files still exist. The freight records still exist. Grant Keller still exists. Savannah Chase still exists. The investigator you attacked is alive." Roman looked at Malcolm. "You lost the moment the evidence stopped depending on one object." Malcolm's gaze moved from Roman to Claire, then to the two guards. The man near the wall was bleeding from his mouth. The second clutched his injured wrist. Neither appeared ready to die for a plan already collapsing. Malcolm lowered his gun first. Not fully. Only enough to change the room. Roman did not lower his. Malcolm looked at him. "You think the organization will accept this? They will accept the records. They will see hesitation. Then let them. You will fracture everything your father built." Roman's expression did not change. "Perhaps it should break." Malcolm stared at him for a long moment. Then he placed the gun on the table. "Your father would be ashamed of you." Roman's voice remained level. "That no longer frightens me." Malcolm looked toward Claire. "You believe a camera makes you untouchable." "No." She lifted it slightly. "It makes what you do harder to deny." He studied her face as though committing it to memory. Then he picked up his gloves. Roman said, "Leave the phone." Malcolm stopped. His gaze settled on Roman. Roman did not move. After a long pause, Malcolm left the phone on the table. He turned toward his men. "Go." The first guard released the weapon Roman had taken from him. The second stepped around the broken glass. They moved toward the front door. Malcolm paused beneath the dark entry light. "This is not finished." Roman lowered his gun at last. "No, but this part is." Malcolm opened the door. Cold air entered the house. Then he and his men disappeared into the snow. The door closed. For several seconds no one moved. The quiet afterward felt larger than the violence. Claire set the camera on the table. Her fingers would not release it at first. Roman crossed the room and locked the door. Then he returned to her. "Are you hurt, my shoulder?" He touched the fabric near the injury, careful and light. Claire winced. His face hardened. "It may bruise. You were shot at, grazed." Again the first wound reopened. Blood had spread across his sleeve. Claire looked at him. They both began to laugh. It was not humor. It was the body's last available response after fear had nowhere else to go. Roman sat in the nearest chair. Claire retrieved the medical kit. This time he did not argue. She cut away the damaged bandage and cleaned the wound again. Her hands shook visibly. Roman watched them. "You recorded everything he said. Yes, you struck an armed man with a camera." He touched the lens. Roman almost smiled. Then his expression became serious. "You did not have to stay." Claire wrapped fresh gauze around his arm. "You gave me the key." That was not the same as safety. No, it was a choice. Roman looked at her. "I nearly told Ethan to take you somewhere you could not leave until this ended." Claire tied the bandage. "I know. You know you looked at the locked office before you handed me the vehicle key." Roman's gaze dropped. "I thought control would keep you alive." "It might have." "Then why would it have been wrong? Because surviving is not the only thing that belongs to me." Roman absorbed that in silence. Claire closed the medical case. "You stopped," she said. "You gave me the choice back. I may not always recognize when I am taking it. Then I will tell you. And if I do not listen," Claire looked at him, "I leave." Roman nodded once. There was no promise in the gesture, only acceptance of the boundary. Ethan arrived 20 minutes later with 4 men. He took in the broken glass, the bullet hole, the blood, and Malcolm's phone on the table. "What happened?" Claire lifted the camera. "We improved the evidence." Ethan looked at Roman. Roman said, "Move the files, secure every copy. Bring the senior counsel to the Ashcroft Club tonight. That fast before Malcolm can rewrite the story." Ethan picked up the phone using a clean evidence bag. "And Grant find him before Malcolm does." The house filled with controlled movement. Drives were duplicated. Weapons were collected. The camera footage was copied through 3 separate systems. Claire watched the first file upload successfully. Her bluff had become fact before anyone could test it. Roman stood beside her. "You were not certain it had uploaded." "No, you told Malcolm it had." "Yes." Roman looked at the progress bar. "You lied." "I framed the available truth." "That sounds dangerous. It works for men like you." He gave her a quiet look. "Apparently it works on us too." By evening, the Ashcroft Club had been closed to the public. The building stood in River North behind dark stone and smoked glass. It had once belonged to judges, industrialists, and men who believed privacy was a form of architecture. Claire remained in a secure room upstairs while Roman presented the evidence below. She had refused to enter the meeting, not from fear. The photographs needed to speak without the distraction of the woman who found them. Through a secure audio connection, she heard Roman address the council attorney's representatives from the defense contractor and 2 federal intermediaries. He presented the corridor image, the recovered conference room file, the serial numbers, the shipping records, the forged signature, Malcolm's statements from the safe house. Then Ethan brought in Grant Keller. Grant looked exhausted in the security photograph sent to Claire's screen. He had surrendered after Roman's men reached him at a motel near O'Hare. In exchange for protection, he confirmed North Meridian's role, Malcolm's order, and the intended transfer of the modules. Malcolm's authority was suspended before midnight. North Meridian's accounts were frozen. The private aircraft was seized. The buyers named in the photograph were identified. When federal agents reached Malcolm's home, it was empty. His car was found near the lake. He was gone. Roman entered Claire's room after the meeting. His tie had been removed. Fatigue sat openly in his face. "Grant is cooperating," he said, "and Malcolm missing." Claire closed the laptop. "So it is not over." "No." Roman stood across from her. "But the sale is stopped. The accounts are frozen. He no longer controls anyone through my name." Claire looked at him. "And my brother safe. The surveillance team near his office has been removed. You told him no good." Roman nodded. The room became quiet. Claire looked toward the camera resting beside her. "Am I still evidence?" Roman's expression changed. "No. What am I?" He took a moment before answering. "The person who made the evidence impossible to bury. That is not what I asked." Roman met her eyes. For once he had no controlled answer ready. Claire let the silence remain. Then Ethan appeared in the doorway. "The car is ready." Roman looked at Claire. "Where do you want to go?" Not where he had arranged. Not where his men had chosen. Where she wanted. Claire picked up her camera. "A hotel with a room I choose myself." Roman nodded. He carried none of her equipment until she asked him to take the heavier case. This time she did. Claire chose a hotel in the West Loop from the back seat of the car. Not one owned by Roman. Not one recommended by Ethan. Not one hidden behind a private security company or connected to a name that appeared in any of the files spread across the Ashcroft Club. She chose a narrow brick building between a coffee shop and a closed furniture store. The lobby had worn tile, a brass bell on the counter, and a night clerk who looked more interested in the basketball game playing beneath his desk than in the woman arriving with 3 camera cases and a man whose presence made the lobby seem suddenly too small. Roman stood beside her while she signed the registration card. The clerk slid a key across the counter. "6th floor. Elevator is to your right." Claire picked up the key. Roman reached for the largest equipment case, then stopped. He looked at her. "May I?" The question was quiet. Claire gave him the case. "Yes." They rode the elevator without speaking. The walls were mirrored, scratched near the lower corners by years of luggage. Claire watched their reflections instead of looking directly at him. Roman's shirt had been replaced, but fatigue showed in the set of his shoulders. The clean bandage beneath his sleeve formed a pale line against his arm. Claire looked different too. A bruise was beginning beneath the fabric of her shoulder. Her hair had come loose. There was dried blood near one cuff that belonged to Roman, one of Malcolm's men, or both. The elevator opened. Her room stood at the end of a short hallway. Roman waited while she unlocked it. The room was modest, 1 bed, 1 chair, a desk beneath a narrow window facing a brick wall and a black iron fire escape. A strip of winter sky showed between the buildings. Claire stepped inside. Roman placed the case beside the desk. He checked the lock, the window, and the connecting door before he seemed to realize what he was doing. Claire watched him. "You are doing it again." Roman's hand remained on the window latch. "Doing what? Turning the room into something you can control." He released the latch. "I was checking the exits, I know." Roman looked toward the door. Claire could see the instinct in him. The need to leave a guard in the hall, the urge to replace the lock, inspect the floor, and decide which risks she was permitted to take. He drew a slow breath. "Would you like someone outside? No. Would you like Ethan to monitor the lobby? No. Would you like me to stay?" Claire looked at him. The question was not the same as the others. Roman did not soften it with a smile. He did not step closer. He simply stood in the plain hotel room and allowed the answer to belong entirely to her. "Not tonight," she said. Something moved through his eyes. Disappointment controlled quickly enough that another person might have missed it. Claire did not. Roman nodded. "I understand." She expected him to leave at once. Instead, he removed a phone from his pocket and set it on the desk. "It has 1 number stored in it. Mine. It is not tracked through any Vale account. You had time to arrange that. I have people who arrange things quickly. That is not always reassuring. No." He accepted the criticism without defense. Claire touched the phone, but did not pick it up. Roman moved toward the door. "Malcolm knows your face," he said. "He may know your name. You said I was removed from the evidence. You were removed from the official record. That does not erase what he remembers. Then I live with that." Roman's jaw tightened. Claire could see how much he hated the sentence. You should not have to. Neither should Savannah. Neither should my brother. Neither should your investigator. Roman looked at her. But we do. He lowered his eyes for one moment. When he looked back, the control had returned, but it no longer felt like a wall. It felt like something he was holding because he did not know what else to do with his hands. Call me if anything feels wrong. I will, even if you are not certain. I heard you. Roman opened the door. Claire said his name before he stepped into the hallway. He turned. Thank you for asking. Roman held her gaze. Then he left. Claire locked the door behind him. For the first time in 3 days, she was alone. The silence should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like the moment after a camera shutter when the image had been captured but had not yet appeared on the screen. She stood in the center of the room and waited for herself to understand what had happened. Her body understood first. Her hands began to shake. Claire sat on the edge of the bed. She pressed her palms against her knees and tried to breathe slowly. The room remained still. No footsteps stopped outside. No key entered the lock. No gunshot split the ceiling. Only the furnace. Only traffic. Only a television playing somewhere through the wall. Her phone rang. Claire flinched before seeing her brother's name. She answered, "Daniel, are you alive?" The question was casual, the way he always began calls when she traveled. Claire closed her eyes. "Yes, good. Mom asked me to remind you that New York apparently has telephones too. I have been working. At midnight, the client was difficult. Your clients are always difficult." Claire almost laughed. Daniel continued talking about an argument at his office, unaware that men had watched him from across the street. Unaware that his photograph had been used to make his sister afraid. She listened longer than usual. When he asked if something was wrong, she said she was tired. It was not the whole truth. It was enough to let him remain outside the frame. After the call, Claire opened her laptop. She checked every encrypted copy. The evidence existed in 4 locations now. The automatic release protocol remained active. She entered the current code and reset the timer. Then she opened the folder containing the photographs she had taken during the previous 72 hours. Not the recovered images from Conference Room C, not the serial numbers or shipping records. Her own photographs. There were more than she remembered. The first showed the corridor outside Roman's penthouse after the false room service attempt. The elevator alcove sat empty beneath warm hotel light. A dark line crossed the carpet where a service door had not closed completely. The image felt like hesitation. She opened the next. Roman's reflection appeared in the service elevator, one hand near the gun beneath his jacket. He was looking toward a corner outside the frame. Claire had captured him without intending to. In another photograph, the underground garage became a blur of concrete and broken light. The black van stood near the edge. One attacker's face appeared in the reflection of the sedan window. That image belonged to the evidence. She moved it into the secure folder. The next photograph showed the highway through the passenger window. Chicago dissolved into long bands of white, gray, and amber. The city looked as though it were being erased while they drove away. Claire stared at it. Then came the safe house, the empty kitchen before dawn, one glass beside the sink, a chair turned slightly away from the table, the bullet hole in the ceiling after Malcolm left, broken coffee pot glass shining beneath the dining room light, Malcolm's phone sealed in an evidence bag, then Roman. 4 photographs. Claire did not remember taking any of them. In the first, he stood over the documents at the dining table. His sleeves were rolled above his forearms. His head was lowered, the line of his body shaped by concentration. He looked powerful, but not because anyone was watching him. In the second, he stood at the kitchen window, holding a glass of water. Pale morning light outlined his shoulders. His face remained in shadow. Technically, the image should have failed. The exposure was uneven. The focus rested slightly behind him. The grain was visible. Yet the photograph held something a clean image would have destroyed. It showed loneliness without asking for sympathy. Claire opened the third. Roman sat beside her laptop at the moment Malcolm's face emerged from the corrupted file. His expression remained controlled, but grief had reached the surface before discipline could contain it. She had captured the exact second a trusted memory became evidence. Claire's fingers rested against the keyboard. Then she opened the fourth photograph. Roman looked directly into the camera. The room around him had fallen out of focus. Only his face remained sharp. Claire did not remember lifting the camera. She did not remember pressing the shutter. She remembered him standing near the table. She remembered the files, the winter light, and the conversation about choice. But she did not remember him looking at her like that. There was no warning in his expression, no calculation, no authority. He looked like a man who had stopped deciding whether he could afford to be seen. Claire sat motionless. The photograph unsettled her more than the images of guns and blood. Danger had a language she understood. This did not. Her phone rang. The secure phone Roman had left on the desk lit the dark room. Claire answered. "Are you outside?" "No." His voice was quiet. She looked toward the door anyway. "Where are you in the car? How far?" "Far enough that you cannot accuse me of waiting in the hallway." Claire glanced at the fourth photograph. "You knew." A pause. "Knew what?" "That I was taking it." Roman did not ask which photograph. "Yes." Claire felt something tighten beneath her ribs. "Why did you let me?" The line remained silent for several seconds. "Because you asked me to stop deciding for you. That does not answer the question, no." Roman breathed once. "I wanted to know what you saw when you looked at me." Claire looked at the image again. "What if you did not like it? That risk belonged to me." The answer moved through her slowly. Roman continued. "The senior counsel accepted the evidence. North Meridian is frozen. Grant signed a full statement. And Malcolm, we found the vehicle he used after leaving the safe house. It was abandoned near Kenosha. So he may have crossed the state line, yes. Do you know where he is?" "No." Claire heard what he did not say. He hated not knowing. "What about Savannah?" "She is safe. Her family has been told that the driver was attacked during an attempted robbery. She has not been connected to the card, and the investigator awake. He will recover." Claire closed the evidence folder. Roman's voice became more formal. "Your name does not appear in the materials presented tonight. The safe house recording was entered as footage from a private Vale security device. Your camera serial number was removed from the proxy copy. You removed me. I removed the visible path leading to you without asking." "Yes." Claire waited. Roman did not defend the decision. "I should have asked," he said. "You should have. I can restore the original record." "No." The answer came quickly enough to surprise them both. Claire looked at the camera beside her. "I do not want my name in it." "All right, but I want copies of everything submitted under my work. You will have them. And I want written confirmation that the original files remain mine." Roman was silent. Claire almost smiled. "Do not tell me that sounds unromantic. I was going to say it sounds like you. That too. I will send the confirmation." Claire looked at the fourth photograph. "Roman, yes, come see it." The line became quiet. "Now, yes." He arrived 38 minutes later. Claire knew because she watched the clock without admitting she was watching it. The knock was soft. She checked the hallway through the peephole before opening the door. Roman stood alone. He wore a dark coat over a black shirt. Snow had melted along his shoulders. His face looked more tired than it had at the club. Claire stepped aside. He entered but did not inspect the locks. She noticed. Roman looked around the room. "You chose a wall." Claire followed his gaze toward the window. "A brick wall has more honesty than a skyline. You said that at the safe house. You remembered." "I remember most things you say." The words were simple. Claire turned toward the desk before he could see their effect. She opened the fourth photograph full screen. Roman approached. He stood beside her chair and looked at his own face. For a long time he said nothing. Claire watched the photograph rather than the man. "I did not know I looked like that," Roman said. "No one does." "What does it look like?" Claire considered the question. "Like someone who forgot to protect himself for 1 second. Roman's reflection appeared faintly across the laptop screen. "Is that what you saw?" "It is what the camera saw?" "That is not the same thing." "No." Claire turned in the chair. Roman stood close enough that she could see the faint bruise near his jaw from the struggle at the safe house. "What did you see?" he asked. She looked back at the photograph. A man who spent so long controlling what everyone else could see that he stopped knowing what was left when the control disappeared. Roman absorbed the words without looking away. And what is left? Claire met his eyes. You. The room became very quiet. Roman lifted one hand. He stopped before touching her face. May I? Claire nodded. His fingers moved along her cheek with a care that felt more dangerous than force. She could have stepped back. Roman gave her the time to do it. Claire rose from the chair and closed the distance herself. Their kiss was slow, no urgency, no claim. Roman's hand remained light against her face as though he understood that the moment would end the instant he tried to own it. Claire touched the front of his shirt. She felt his heartbeat beneath her palm. When they separated, neither moved far. Roman looked at her. I cannot promise this becomes safe. I did not ask for safe. I cannot promise Malcolm will not return. I know. My world does not become clean because I stopped one transaction. I know that, too. Roman's expression tightened. Then why are you still here? Claire looked toward the photograph. Because you gave me the door. His eyes returned to hers. And you stayed. Yes. 3 weeks later, the West Loop Gallery filled with voices. Winter coats and glasses of wine balanced too close to expensive prints. Claire stood near the entrance beneath lighting she disliked and listened to the gallery director explain her own photographs to a collector who had not asked. The exhibition featured 6 photographers, 12 images each. Claire had selected most of her sequence before arriving in Chicago. Corporate portraits, rooftop architecture, a study of commuters through rain-covered windows. 2 days before the opening, she removed one polished image. In its place, she hung the empty corridor outside Roman's penthouse. The print measured nearly 40 inches across. At that size, every detail became significant. The edge of the service door, the shadow beneath the elevator sign, the pale line of light near the penthouse entrance. People stopped in front of it longer than they stopped in front of the technically perfect photographs. A woman holding red wine asked Claire what she was looking at. A hotel corridor? Yes, but what is it about Claire studied the image? The moment between staying and leaving. The woman nodded as though she understood. Perhaps she did. The 4th photograph of Roman hung at the end of the sequence. Claire had cropped it carefully. His face remained visible, but the angle and grain prevented casual recognition. His name did not appear in the exhibition notes. The label read only Untitled Number 4. Claire had not told Roman she planned to display it. She had prepared herself to remove it if he objected. At 8:15, she noticed a stillness near the final wall. Roman stood before the portrait. He wore a dark suit without a tie. No security men were visible, though Claire suspected they were somewhere nearby. He looked at the image for so long that people began moving around him, rather than waiting for him to step aside. Claire crossed the room. She stopped beside him. You came. Roman did not look away from the photograph. You displayed it. Yes. You did not ask. No. Claire waited. Do you want me to take it down? Roman looked at his own face on the wall, the imperfect exposure, the visible grain, the expression he had allowed one woman to capture. No, he said. Claire released the breath she had been holding. Roman turned toward her. Malcolm was seen near the Canadian border 4 days ago. The gallery noise seemed to move farther away. Why are you telling me here because you asked for facts you could verify? Is he coming back? I do not know. Claire studied Roman's face. He was giving her the truth even when it weakened the illusion of safety. She nodded. Thank you. Roman looked toward the portrait again. I came for another reason. What reason? I wanted to know whether that man still existed after you left the room. Claire followed his gaze, and Roman turned back to her. He does when you are in it. The words reached her without decoration. That was how Roman said everything that mattered. Claire looked around the gallery. People stood beneath bad light, speaking too loudly, trying to decide what every image meant. There is a second print, she said. I want it. You can have it under one condition. Roman waited. You hang it somewhere you actually live. I live in several places. No, you sleep in several places. That is different. Roman's eyes narrowed slightly. No offices, no safe houses, no rooms designed for you to abandon the moment something goes wrong. What are you asking me to do? Find a wall. Roman looked at the photograph. Claire continued. Then build a home around it. For a moment she expected him to retreat behind silence. Instead, Roman reached toward her hand. He stopped before touching it. Waiting. Claire placed her hand in his. Across the room, untitled no. 4 remained beneath the imperfect gallery light. The shadows were too deep. The grain was visible. The frame was not entirely straight. Roman was looking directly into the camera, not because Claire had trapped him, not because anyone had ordered him to stand there, because he had chosen to be seen, and beside him, holding his hand in a room full of witnesses, Claire made her own choice. She stepped into the frame,